Now to our reporter Aviwe Mtila. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has announced the members of his new cabinet. Lesufi took over from David Makura yesterday. The former Education MEC was up against the DA's Solly Msimang. Before announcing his cabinet, Lesufi said he had consultations with the leadership of the ANC as well as alliance partners. He again announced the province's action plan. Our senior reporter, as I said, Aviwe Mtila, is standing by. He has the new MEC of Transport and Logistics with him. Aviwe, can you tell us what the new MEC has to say about his or her appointment?
Hello, Annalie, and it was quite clear from the Premier's announcement when she was announcing Transport and Logistics MEC that the first task and the first priority would be to scrap e-tolls. Now, to just get more on this and how it's going to happen, I am joined by Kedibone Diale-Tlhabela, the new Transport and Logistics MEC. Thank you for joining us at eNCA and for your maiden interview as MEC. But let's talk about that key priority mentioned by the Premier there. How are you going to go about scrapping e-tolls?
Thank you very much. You would understand that this is not new. It's a long overdue resolution of the African National Congress in our province. And one of the things that we have done as a province is to engage with our Luthuli House and ensure that this is implemented. And I think one of the things that we will really prioritize as per the Premier's speech is to ensure the fast tracking of the implementation. The Premier also mentioned that our Department of Finance will assist us in modeling on how are we going to handle the part that we as a province must handle financially. So wait for us. There are bigger things coming, and we will ensure that e-tolls are really scrapped in Gauteng. I don't think we will be still talking e-tolls in no time. We'll make sure that national government assists us in that regard. I think we have that energy, and we will push. This is a resolution of the African National Congress in our province, and we'll make sure that not only the ANC resolution, but the resolution of the people of Gauteng don't want e-tolls.
At all, and we've heard that MEC many times, maybe, but for the benefit of those listening, people from Gauteng, do we have time frames? How soon can we expect e-tolls to be scrapped?
One of the things that the ANC, when they were briefing us on this role, was to fast track and prioritize this as our priority. We'll obviously engage with our finance department just to go about the modus operandi. What is it that we are going to be doing? And actually, I can't be speaking to timeframes now. After I get to know what needs to be done, what is feasible, we will communicate with people of Gauteng and tell them how are we going to scrap the e-tolls and give them timeframes. Hold us to that. I think we will come back and give you feedback on how are we going to do it and by when.
And just your broader role then as Transport and Logistics MECs, what other areas will you be focusing on? I remember Premier Panyaza Lesufi mentioning township infrastructure.
One of the things that the Premier and the African National Congress, when they were briefing us, was to ensure prioritization of upgrading of roads within our townships. I think you heard him. Our focus and our budget in continuing the mandate of the 6th administration is to ensure that we develop our townships and make sure that the road infrastructure in townships is in good conditions. The other thing that the brief spoke to was an issue of integrated transport system within our province. So give us time. We'll go back, we'll sit with the team within the department and make sure that we are able to communicate concrete plans with timeframes to people of Gauteng as to what is it that we will be doing in this role on behalf of the African National Congress and the people of Gauteng.
All right, thank you very much. Transport and Logistics MEC here, Kedibone Diale-Tlhabela. In fact, township was one of the focal points here. In fact, the key priority, Annalie, as we heard that the budget priorities will be around developing townships. And of course, that would be at the hands of Tasneem Motola, the MEC of Economic Development. Let's just bring in just to get a sense of where her mind is and how she's going to achieve this. Because we heard, thank you for joining us at eNCA MEC, we heard that, for example, the budget will be ongoing and relentless when it comes to funding even entrepreneurs coming from the townships. What are your plans around uplifting the townships?
I think, thanks so much. Importantly is that we've got to look at small and medium businesses. They are located, many of them, in the townships, and give them adequate support. Adequate support so that they are able to sustain themselves, to grow, to be able to grow and become big employers. Big employers become big investors, and that's going to increase our tax base and revenue generation for the country as a whole. I think importantly is that we've got to be able to give adequate support. We know that businesses, especially small businesses, don't last much longer than the first year from inception. Once they're created, it's not enough just to get work from government, but it is important to be able to understand how to run a successful business, and government should and must play an important role in that aspect.
And the Premier said he's unashamed about the fact that they want to reclaim the spaza shops and the shops in the townships. That's a mammoth task, given that already we know those are in the majority of foreign nationals. How are you going to go about this?
Well, the Township Economic Development Act does make provision for collapsing and making sure that we have a blanket approach when it comes to bylaws. I think the biggest weakness has been that municipalities are not able to enforce bylaws, and that has seen a sprawling of businesses in an uncoordinated, in a manner that really diminishes what we want to do with our special plans, especially in townships. We want to, using the Township Economic Development Act, we want to be able to assist municipalities to enforce bylaws. Businesses that operate in South Africa must be compliant. Are they registered for tax? Are they registered with the banking institutions? We've got to ensure that we know how much of money is moving in the economy, and the only way to do that is to enforce bylaws, make sure that businesses comply, and when they comply, the banking sector and all other regulatory bodies are aware of the businesses.
Just lastly, I know this is not in your specific forte, but there was talk of a state bank. Are there plans in the cabinet, the council itself, on how this is going to be done?
Yes, definitely. We mooted the thoughts and the idea of a state bank since the beginning of this term. So it's something that, yes, I am familiar with. We want to be able to establish a provincial state bank so that one provincial government banks with its own state bank. You heard the Premier speak about our huge budget, over 150 billion rand. We've got to be able to bank it with a state bank that gives us a return on our investment, that we're able to control where that investment goes. I think it's not enough just to bank with the big four banks like we've been doing. We've just been shifting our accounts from bank to bank. So a state bank is going to also be able to allow banking opportunities and access to funding to the ordinary person on the street with lesser controls or lesser stringent measures for you to access the funding. State banks have got more relaxed, more space and more avenues to relax their regulations.
All right, thank you very much. Economic Development MEC Aviwe Mtila here, talking of the state bank that we heard a bit earlier on inside the briefing as Panyaza Lesufi, the Premier of Gauteng, was announcing his new Executive Council. Of course, the big focus there would be on the township economy and growing the township economy and the living conditions, mentioning that he'll be focusing on the township informal settlements as well as hostels, and just getting them in better spaces, basically.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was our reporter, Aviwe Mtila, coming to us from that cabinet redeployment shuffle by new Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi.